In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I got a pretty quick video for today, but I hope that it can shed some important light in this topic, and it's kind of around the whole idea of self-development. And I was listening to a podcast between Alex Hormozi and Chris Williamson, and I like Hormozi a lot more than I do Williamson, but Williamson is slowly growing on me. But one of the issues that I had, and I was listening to this very episode, so this episode was titled 33 ideas or challenging ideas about your potential and about wasting your potential. And I would have started this episode, a month or two ago, and I started listening to it, and they were just going through some of Hormozi's tweets, and I was like, man, am I getting anything out of this? They're just sort of going after concept after concept after concept. It's not really impacting me in any way. And I actually shut it off, and I don't really know what it was that made me click back on it, maybe because it was on my watch later, but in that second half of the episode, there were 2 or 3 points which I want to share with you today that really struck me. And the most important thing that I want to share before I give you those ideas, and you can use this to approach anything that I talk about on my channel or anything within the self-improvement movement, is that the most profound life lessons, the most integral concepts to success, happiness, and even salvation often feel like cliches. Carry your cross daily. Tell me your 5 friends and I'll tell you your future. We have all of these sayings and all these bits of scripture which we throw around, but it's almost like they don't signify anything, right? Because we've heard them so often, they're said all the time, they don't really mean anything to us. It's like, how do you put that into practice? How do I carry my cross daily? How do I apply this advice that your net work is your net worth? Things like that. And what Hormozi is trying to say, discussing this very point about cliches, is that the most important truths are difficult to communicate precisely because they are widely known and overused, making them sound like common, boring advice. And the key takeaways about this is that there's a gap in execution, right? So the problem isn't a lack of information. You often already know propositionally. People know how to eat well. People know that they need to pray daily. People know that they need to exercise. But do they do all of those things? There's a lack of follow-through, right? There's a lack of execution. If you already know that something is good advice, but you think that it sounds cliche, or it's just another motivational Instagram video, the reason you're thinking that about the piece of advice, the reason you're thinking that in relation to it's important to get enough sleep and things like that, is because it means you haven't mastered it yet. Oh, they're talking about discipline again. This is so boring. Someone who has discipline and understands discipline, I don't talk about discipline a lot, right? But it's integral to my life. It is the foundation upon which my life is built. That's why I don't have that reaction to videos about discipline, because I understand that what this video or what this person or what this podcast is trying to communicate is contributing further to the understanding that for someone who doesn't know discipline or doesn't practice discipline or doesn't, realize the importance of discipline, here's how, here's why, here's how it's impacted my life, right? So if you think it's a cliche, or if you say, oh, I've heard this a million times, it means you haven't quite locked it down yet. Because if you truly understood the concept, then you would understand its truth, okay? Integration. A lot of what these kinds of podcasts and people remind, and look, as I said at the start, I'm one of the people who can sympathize in getting bored of this, right? You need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. You need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. You don't need to be taught discipline. You don't need to be taught a lot of these basic mindset concepts that Hormozi talks about, but you need to be reminded of it often, because you're probably not virtuous enough, you're probably not motivated enough, you're probably not focused enough to just sustain yourself on this miracle willpower for the rest of your life, right? Once the gears click into place, I think you can. once you've got that purpose, once you've got that higher vision, once you've got that virtue. But you need to be reminded, right? Many people walk around frustrated because they aren't getting what they want, even though they know what to do. This is the story of people's lives. They have these goals, they have these virtues that they want to work towards. They know what to do, but they simply don't do it. So that's the first most important lesson, which I hope can frame some of the other things that I'm going to talk about in this video, and also just as a general mindset to apply to life, right? Why do we need to go to Mass every Sunday? Well, yeah, to receive the Holy Eucharist, but also to be strengthened and renewed in the spirit of your mind, as it says in Scripture. We need to be reminded of these things constantly to keep pushing us towards that final goal. So, other than that, I've got two pieces of advice that I also drew from that podcast, and I'm not sure if I've ever spoken of these two explicitly, but they're really key, and they were key for me, especially when I was younger, because I suppose I struggled a lot with, I didn't really fear judgment from other people too much. I guess sort of that blessing of a bit autistic, of not really giving a crap what people think, whether that be positive or negative, right? It can be a double-edged sword. But this advice helped me a lot in assuring me that I was on the right path. So here's the idea, that an extraordinary life or an extraordinary result requires non-ordinary behavior. So let's take something as simple as you want to be fit. Majority of people don't really care about their health. Yeah, there's a bit of a resurgence in health and fitness, but nobody really cares about, sun maxing, hormone optimization, avoiding seed oils, getting fit, sleeping well, things like that. So the behavior that is necessary to live a life like that, by definition, is not going to be ordinary behavior. Because ordinary behavior, if we take a statistical baseline, involves alcohol, involves seed oils, involves unhealthy lifestyle habits, and involves a lack of physical exercise and pursuit. So by striving towards that goal, you're de facto going into that, the minority group, right, of people that are doing that. And the more extraordinary, or the higher that your goal is, the higher that your pursuit is, like that man right there, if you're aiming towards him and you're aiming towards salvation, it's going to require you to shun the things of the world, right? When I am looking at the world through the eyes of faith, through the light of faith, there are a whole bunch of behaviors which I will no longer partake in because they are not conducive to salvation. They're occasions of sin. They simply do not bring me closer to Christ. And that's going to be non-ordinary, extraordinary behavior. So I just want you to think about this simply. If you have any of those goals which I just mentioned, or goals of your own, which are drastic, they could be as simple as financial goals, personal goals, relationship goals. You want to marry a God-fearing woman that practices the faith, that has all of these beliefs. You're not going to be playing, the stupid merry-go-round dating, hookup culture crap, because your goal is so much different and so much beyond that, right? So if you have a goal like that, you need to accept the fact that you're going to be acting different to 99% of the people around you. And that's okay. People are living with different goals in mind. Those other people, they either don't have goals or their goals are very surface level. So their actions are going to be measured against those goals, okay? You simply measuring your actions against different goals. What you don't want to do is have goals that are all the way up here, but you are constantly seeking the validation and you're worried about what people say whose goals are down here. They're literally looking at the world in a different way. You're looking at the world in a different way than them. So why would their opinion about your goals matter when they don't have the same goals as you? It's like, for example, imagine I'm speaking to someone who's training for a marathon and I'm telling them, you need a squat, you need a deadlift, you need a bench, you're a pencil neck. he wouldn't understand that because he has different goals than me, right? He's not training to get big and strong. He's training to run 42 kilometers as quickly as possible. So it's a completely different lens. We're miscommunicating. If we're both training to run a marathon, that's where we can actually have a conducive conversation, because talking to this guy is going to help. What's worked for you? What's your training style? What's your nutrition? Because we've got the same goal. His opinion about my training is actually relevant to me. But if someone's not even aiming towards that, and he's trying to give me advice, or he's saying, Tomas, you're not doing it right, you're not sleeping enough, you're working too hard, I don't agree with your opinion on this. They may not even be Christian, man. They're not even aiming at the same things as I am. They don't have the same mission that I have. So why would I listen to their opinion about that? Now, I'm not saying not to be charitable, right? You should still have charity in the way that you behave towards these people, but there's a huge difference between that and having them live rent-free in my head. I'm worried about what X person is going to think, or what's he going to say. Man, I'm scared to post this online, all of this crap. You're letting someone else control your behavior, okay? So, summary of that. You need to weigh people's opinions by their proximity to your goal. I'm a young 18-year-old guy. I open up Jocko podcast. I see a guy who's disciplined. He's smart. He's a leader. He's articulate. He reads books. Okay, what did Jocko do to get to the point in life that he's at? He worked out every day. He read every day. He wrote every day. He focuses on his diet. He doesn't eat junk food. Okay, that's what that man did to get to this goal. I want to get to that goal too. Therefore, I'm going to look at what he's saying, and I'm going to look at the type of life that he's leading, and I'm going to follow that, okay? Then that's good, because he's close. His proximity is very close to that goal that I want, right? To these virtues. Apologies for not looking at the camera. I'm looking at the preview. I should be looking at the camera. I've just got the iPhone above my laptop. But that's very important, okay? So that's extraordinary results requires non-ordinary behavior. And that applies to effectively anything in life, all right? Now, the final sort of second point, and I guess it's pretty similar, it's that, disordered fear of others' opinions that deflects a man from the good he knows he ought to do. Now, this is, again, it's basing your goals, it's basing your intention, it's basing your thoughts around the average parameters of people around you. And in some ways, it's kind of like a type of pusillanimity, right? I still need to do a video on that smallness of soul. But it's that limiting of your life. It's that limiting of your growth under God to people's perceptions, right? And the opposite virtue of this is magnanimity. So it's the stretching of the soul towards great things in spite of fear, in spite of judgment, because you're a prayerful, intentioned person that looks at the example of people who are in close proximity to the type of person that you want to be, and you aspire to lead a life like they do, okay? I don't look at the people around me and base my behaviors off them. I look at the saints, right? What did the saints do? They prayed all the time. They woke up early. They fasted. They, they did spiritual reading. You can sort of go down the list, right? What do successful businessmen do? How do they approach their life? How does Hormozi approach, structuring a business, things like that? From someone looking from the outside, a regular Christian or Catholic, they're going to look at me and say, this guy's a psycho. But I'm not trying to be a lukewarm Christian. I'm trying to be a saint, okay? So you need to think about that, and you need to make that decision, because the sooner that you realize that perhaps the opinions and beliefs that you hold have been influenced negatively by the world, by the people around you, by self-limiting beliefs, the sooner you can discard that, the more quickly that your soul can stretch towards great things which is Christ, all right? And unfortunately, a lot of the influences of the world right now seek to draw you away from Christ. So this is part of what I'm trying to get across in this video. Okay. I think that's all my notes. Yeah, I don't think I really have anything else there. But I was definitely, I thought it was just a fantastic comment about that repetition versus teaching, and that, yeah, we don't really necessarily need more formation content, but why do people still struggle so much, with the same sins, with the same weak mindset, with the same ailments of the soul? Is because they don't implement, they don't integrate, they don't execute, they don't act. So we need there is room for development with a lot of ideas, right? In response to the modern world, in response to the phone, any number of things which are sort of new in human life. But we need to be reminded, we need to discuss the strategies, we need to do the application to real life scenarios. And you simply need to act on what you know to be true. And that's why St. James says that faith without works is dead, because you can have the most closest approximation to divine truth you can on earth, and you can be a grave sinner. Unfortunately, that does not result in virtue. We have to meet God in the middle. We have to meet what our intellect knows to be true with action, with execution from the will and the appetite and the body. So yeah, that's probably me finished droning on. We're at 17 minutes. I'm going to link the podcast below. Again, it's nothing mind-blowing. Like, I don't expect you to take notes on every single thing that they say, but there's some great stuff in there about potential, and I really think this kind of thinking has to be normalized a lot more in today's culture. So that's what I'll leave you with. Little bit of an announcement. We just launched the school, the Fit for the Kingdom school, last week. So we've got some courses up there. There's a masculinity course, which I recorded last year. And you'll get access to the community side. All of that's for free. We're currently going through a theology of the body course with Father Ben D'Souza. So we had our first lesson on Tuesday, and that's going to be a 10-week course running through John Paul II's theology of the body on Tuesday nights. So if you're keen to attend, it's free to sign up. Just register on the school. The call link will be posted. It's at 8 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time, and you'll get a pretty solid, digestible but profound breakdown of theology of the body. So that's the school. If you want to explore getting mentored by me one-on-one, I work with a small number of men, on personal habits, discipline, the spiritual life. We've got some accountability, we've got a habit tracker, a bunch of different things that we do together, but really the focus is about building your body and your physical life to be a type of life that supports spiritual goods. Secondly, we focus on building your identity around the right things in a way that makes virtuous behavior natural, not just white knuckling, your way through cold showers and stuff like that. We're really trying to make a substantial, meaningful, and lasting change. And finally, brotherhood. You're going to get access to the calls that we run through the school, a whole number of resources, but really to support, to remind you, to strengthen you in what you know to be true and good, and support you in living that kind of life. So if you think you're slacking off a bit, you need a bit of support, you need a bit of accountability, you need a bit of mentorship, go through the link below. Take you to the landing page. You can have a bit of a read through, send me an application, we can line up a call and discuss further. But I pray you had a good week. We'll come at you with another Q&A and hopefully another piece of content this week. It's been hectic. I had something on, had the weekly call on Monday night, theology of the body and catechism on Tuesday. And just last night we had a FFTK dinner in Christchurch, which was fantastic. It was a great night, well worth the time. But my free time has been squished right to the edges. So with that, God bless you. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.